You didn't fail. You shed an old identity. And I know how heavy that sounds, because from the outside, it looks like your life is collapsing. A relationship ended, your plans changed, your motivation disappeared, and suddenly you don't even recognize the person you used to be. But what if the emptiness you feel isn't a void? What if it's space? Space where the old version of you can no longer survive. Because when you start to wake up, the universe doesn't always give you a clear map. Sometimes it gives you a quiet unraveling. You lose interest in what once excited you. You feel in between timelines. You keep seeing repeating numbers, hearing the same message in different voices, meeting the same lesson in a new disguise. And you can't explain it to anyone without sounding crazy. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never tell you. The moment your soul is ready to evolve, your old identity begins to feel like a costume you can't breathe in anymore. And the reason it feels like failure is because you're measuring a rebirth with the rules of your past. Stay with me until the end, because in the final part of this video, I'm going to show you how to recognize the exact sign that proves you're not falling apart. You're crossing into a new version of you, and how to stop resisting the doorway. If you clicked on this, something in you already knows. What you're living through isn't just a breakup, a career shift, a move, or a sudden loss of certainty. It's an inner transition, the kind that doesn't come with a warning and doesn't ask for permission. One day you're fine, and the next you feel like you're watching your own life from a distance. The things that used to define you stop working. The old motivations go quiet. The old identity, your role, your title, your relationship, your plans, start slipping through your fingers like sand. And the strangest part is this: you can't fully explain it to anyone, because it's not just sadness, it's not just anxiety. It's like your soul is stretching into a shape your old life can't hold anymore. In psychology, major life changes, like divorce, career shifts, or bereavement, can disrupt the sense of self and trigger real identity disruption, where the story you had about who you are no longer fits. So if you feel disoriented right now, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means something is changing in you. In this space, we don't treat that change like a problem to fix. We treat it like a signal to decode. Because when science talks about identity, and spirituality talks about the ego, and the quantum perspective talks about timelines, they're all circling the same doorway, the moment the old version of you can't come with you anymore. Have you noticed the synchronicities lately? The repeating numbers, the songs that answer your thoughts, the sense that something invisible is rearranging your path while you're just trying to survive the day. So in this video, we're going to organize what feels chaotic. We're going to name what's been unnamed, and step by step, you'll see why you didn't fail. You shed an old identity because a truer one is trying to emerge. What you're feeling may not be grief for a person alone. It can be grief for a version of you that no longer exists. After a breakup, a move, a career shift, or a sudden life turn, it's common to feel a loss of identity because your roles and routines were holding your sense of self together. When that structure changes, the inner story of who I am can start to wobble, and that wobble can feel like emptiness, confusion, or quiet panic. So if you've been thinking, why am I not okay, even when nothing is happening right now, it's because something is happening. It's just happening inside. When the old identity can't breathe, part of you still wants to go back. Back to the familiar version, back to the plan, back to the identity that knew what came next. But this is the moment many awakenings begin, the moment the old self becomes too tight. Not because you're weak, because you're expanding. And expansion feels like discomfort when you're still measuring yourself by who you used to be. Here's the loop to keep in mind. In a few minutes, you'll see the most common mistake people make here, the mistake that turns this sacred transition into unnecessary suffering. Energetically, it can feel like you're standing between timelines. One timeline is the life you built from survival, approval, and coping. The other timeline is the life your soul keeps whispering about, but hasn't fully revealed yet. That's why you might wake up with a heavy chest and no clear reason. Feel hypersensitive to people, noise, and shallow conversations. Lose interest in what used to motivate you. Crave solitude, but fear what you'll feel when everything goes quiet. This is not you falling apart. This is you decompressing from an identity you outgrew. And then the signs start showing up. A number repeats. A phrase lands at the exact moment you needed it. A song answers a question you didn't say out loud. Jung described synchronicity as a causal connecting principle, meaningful coincidences that connect inner and outer events through meaning, not direct cause. It's often explained simply as a meaningful coincidence where an external moment mirrors an internal state. So the sign isn't trying to prove anything, it's trying to help you recognize yourself in the middle of the unknown. Some research in transpersonal psychology notes that sudden spiritual awakening can be associated with intense psychological turmoil. Periods where the old self-structure collapses and something wider can break through. That doesn't mean every crisis is awakening, but it supports this truth. Upheaval can be the pressure that cracks the shell. So breathe and hear this clearly. You didn't fail. You didn't lose your way. You shed an old identity because a truer one is trying to live through you. And next, we're going to talk about the exact mistake that blocks this process and how to stop fighting the doorway you're already standing in front of. Let's keep this simple and still sacred. Quantum physics isn't a manifestation religion. It's a language that describes how reality behaves at very small scales. But as a metaphor, it can help you feel what's happening in your inner world, because your inner world is also made of possibilities. So when life breaks your old identity, it doesn't only remove something, it reveals something. You were never a single, fixed self. You were a moving field of potential, pretending to be permanent. In quantum mechanics, superposition describes how a quantum state can be represented as a sum of two or more states. In plain human language, that resembles this in-between phase you're living. Not who you were, not yet who you're becoming. That's why you feel strange when you try to go back, because your energy is already holding more than one possible future. One version of you still wants the familiar pain, because at least it's familiar. Another version of you is quietly refusing to repeat the same lesson. And another version, the one you barely trust yet, is already free. Maybe you feel it at night, when everything gets quiet and you suddenly sense, there's a life I could live if I stop being loyal to the person I used to be. Hold that thought, because soon you'll see how to tell the difference between intuition and fear. But first, you need to understand what choosing really means. In many interpretations of quantum mechanics, wave function collapse refers to the idea that a wave function initially in a superposition can reduce to a single state due to interaction to measurement. Whether or not that picture is the final truth in physics, the metaphor is powerful. When you stop living as every version at once, reality starts to become clearer. This is where most people suffer. They don't suffer because they're broken. They suffer because they keep trying to keep all doors open, even the doors their soul already closed. You replay the relationship while trying to heal. You crave the new life while feeding the old identity. You ask the universe for a sign, while ignoring the sign that is already here, your resistance. And resistance feels like anxiety, but clarity feels like grief first, because committing to the next timeline means grieving the timeline you'll never return to. There's also an interpretation called the many worlds interpretation, which suggests that all possible outcomes of quantum measurements are realized in different worlds, rather than a single collapse. Again, This is not a promise that you can jump universes like a movie. It's a mirror for something psychological and spiritual. Inside you, more than one future is always trying to be born. And your higher self, your most honest self, doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it doesn't beg. It pulls you with a quiet feeling of expansion. So if your life feels like it's branching, if you feel like you're living between endings and beginnings, you're not lost. You're standing at the edge of a decision that will shape your identity. And in the next block, the question becomes real. How do you align with the version of you that is already awake, without forcing it, faking it, or spiritually bypassing the pain? Because the timeline doesn't change when you want it to. The timeline changes when you become someone who can finally live there. Here's the mistake that quietly blocks your rebirth. You try to understand your awakening with the same mind that was built to survive the old identity. So you overanalyze. You replay the breakup. You rehearse conversations that will never happen. You search for certainty because certainty feels like safety. But awakening rarely arrives as certainty. It arrives as a new relationship with the unknown. And the shift begins when you stop asking, how do I get back to normal? And you start asking, what kind of normal can my soul finally breathe in? In acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, the goal is often described as increasing psychological flexibility, the ability to contact the present moment more fully and to change or persist in behavior when it serves what truly matters, your values. In other words, you stop fighting what you feel and you start walking in the direction of what's real. Spiritually, this is the same doorway. You don't force a new identity into existence. You become someone who can hold truth without collapsing. So the question isn't, how do I feel good right now? The deeper question is, what is my pain trying to make me honest about? Your awakened self leaves clues, not commands. Your higher self doesn't usually give you a 10-step plan. It gives you moments, a sudden wave of clarity while washing dishes, a strange calm after crying, a sentence that lands in your chest like a bell. This isn't for you anymore. And here's how to recognize those clues. Fear is loud, repetitive, urgent. Intuition is quieter, and it often feels like a pulling energy, like you're being drawn toward what's true. Fear says, decide now or you'll lose everything. Intuition says, breathe, one step, the next honest thing. When identity collapses, it's easy to chase another identity just to stop the discomfort. But your awakened path is simpler than that. It's a return to your basic human needs. Self-determination. Theory describes 3 core psychological needs that support growth: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy is the feeling that your life is yours. Competence is the sense of effectiveness, and relatedness is the feeling of connection. Now translate that into your current transition. Autonomy. Where have you been living for someone else's approval? Competence. What tiny promise to yourself can you finally keep again today? Relatedness. Who feels safe for the version of you that is changing? This isn't self-help, it's self-return. A new identity is built in quiet agreements. Alignment doesn't happen through a dramatic breakthrough. It happens through small, consistent agreements. I will not abandon myself to be chosen. I will not shrink to be loved. I will not betray my intuition to avoid discomfort. And if you're thinking, but what if I choose wrong? Good. That means you're close, because in the next block, you'll receive a simple practice you can do today to calm the noise, soften the fear, and hear the signal again. Not the signal of your old identity. The signal of the you that's already awake, waiting for you to stop running and finally come home. Before we begin, one quiet agreement. You don't have to fix yourself to move forward. You only have to return to the present long enough to hear what's true. So let this be gentle. Let this be a homecoming. Step 1. Box breathing. Box breathing is a simple pattern of 4 equal parts. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold, each for a slow count of 4. One clear way to do it is, inhale through your nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale slowly through your mouth for 4, then hold again for 4, and repeat. Now do it with me. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and one more time. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. If you notice your mind trying to solve your life while you breathe, that's okay. Just let the breath be the only decision you make for the next few seconds. Step 2, 5, 4, 3, 2 per 1 grounding. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding method is designed to bring attention back to the present by engaging the senses. It works by shifting focus from anxious thoughts to what's happening right here, right now, which can calm the body's stress response. Softly look around and name, out loud if you can, or silently, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Go slowly. As you do this, notice something subtle. You are no longer trapped inside the story. You are inside the moment, and the moment is where your power is. Now, place one hand on your chest or on your belly, wherever you feel your breath most clearly, and say, slowly, I didn't fail. I released an old identity. I'm safe to become someone new. Repeat it again, but softer, like you're speaking to the part of you that's been carrying everything alone. I didn't fail. I released an old identity. I'm safe to become someone new. Now listen for what happens inside after you say it. Maybe nothing dramatic, maybe just a little more space. That space matters, because this is how a new timeline begins, not with a miracle, but with a new inner permission. Ask yourself one question and don't rush the answer. What am I trying to return to that my soul has already outgrown? Let the first answer come, then the second, then the one that feels uncomfortable, but clean. And here is the key. You don't need to take a huge step today. You only need to take the next honest one. A message you don't send, a boundary you stop negotiating, a morning you choose not to abandon yourself, a moment you breathe instead of chasing certainty. Because the awakened version of you isn't created by intensity. It's created by devotion. When your old identity collapses, it feels like darkness. But sometimes darkness is simply the universe protecting the seed while it grows. And if you can hear this, really hear it, then you're ready for the next part, because now that you can calm the noise, you can finally receive the guidance and align with the version of you that has been waiting patiently behind every ending. And now, here is the sign you were promised, the one that proves you're not falling apart. You're crossing into a new version of you. The old identity stops working, not just emotionally, energetically. What used to soothe you no longer soothes you. What used to motivate you no longer moves you. What used to feel right now feels heavy, artificial, almost impossible to carry. That isn't failure. That is integrity awakening inside you. Because when life changes your roles, your routines, and your sense of direction, it can genuinely disrupt your identity, your internal story of who you are. So the confusion you've been living isn't proof that you're broken. It's proof that your old self-definition can't hold what you're becoming. And this is why the universe starts to speak in patterns, not to entertain you, not to tease you, but to guide you back to meaning, back to alignment, back to the deeper thread connecting your inner world to your outer world. Jung described synchronicity as a causal connecting principle, where inner and outer events align through meaning rather than direct cause. So when the same message keeps arriving through different doors, it may be life gently insisting, stop trying to return to who you were. You didn't fail. You shed an old identity. And yes, the shedding can feel like loneliness. It can feel like emptiness. But emptiness is often the space where a new reality can finally land. So let this video end like a hand on your shoulder, a quiet reminder from something greater. What is leaving you was never meant to be your home. What is being born in you has been waiting for your permission. This video ends here, but the process it awakened in you is only beginning. If this video touched something deep in you, don't let that moment fade back into noise. Subscribe to the channel, not as a routine click, but as a quiet decision to keep choosing your awakening, even when the path feels lonely. And if you want to anchor this new timeline with intention, write in the comments. I release the old identity and share one synchronicity you've noticed recently, because these meaningful coincidences often mirror an inner shift that's already underway. And when this video ends, don't stop at the edge of the doorway. Click the next video that appears on the end screen and keep walking with us, one calm step at a time, until your new life doesn't feel like a dream anymore, but like home.